Hello classmates and to each and everyone. Today it's another opportunity for us to enjoy wide learnings. By the way, my name is Kentaya Silverio.
And I am Raymond C. Ramoran, and we are here to discuss to you about the types of rubrics, its advantages and disadvantages, and lastly, the sample for each types of rubrics. Since Miss Arancilio and Miss Diaz have already discussed about the what is rubrics and its benefits, now can I ask Mr. Season to share what you have learned in the presentation of the two reporters? Yes, so thank you very much, Mr. Season. So since you are already familiar what is rubrics, did you know that there are different types of rubrics? So can you give one? So you can type your answer here on the chat box in our Meet. Okay, thank you very much.
It's activity time!
So the class will be divided into 4 groups, and each group will be given a picture of a rubrics, and what you're going to do is you need to identify what types of rubrics you have. And after that, you are going to answer the following questions flash on your screen. So these are the following pictures assigned to each group. So for the group 1, we have Mr. Season's group, and they will be going to identify what types of rubrics is shown in the picture. And for the group 2, we have the group of Pandoy, and this is the assigned picture of a rubrics assigned to them. And for the group 3, we have the group of Mr. Reyes, and this is the assigned rubrics that they will going to identify. And lastly, we have the group of Miss Mabayag, and this is the assigned rubrics to their group. But before we formally start our proper discussion, let me present to you our learning objectives. So at the end of the lesson, you as a learner are expected to first, describe each type of rubrics. Second, explain its advantages and disadvantages. And lastly, you are expected to create a sample of each type of rubric. Since you already know the objectives of our lesson, now it's time to test what you already know about the content of our topic. So students, get your paper and pen and answer the following questions flash on your screen. Instruction: read and carefully analyze the following questions. Write the letter of the correct answer on your answer sheet. Number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. And for number 5. Of your test. If you got a perfect score, well, congratulations, because that means that you are considered as the advanced learner of this topic. It means that you understand some of the content of our topic for today. However, if you got a mistake, don't worry, because it is just only a pre-test. It is only used to determine if you, the students, are already prepared to begin a new lesson. That's why I advise you students to carefully study the topic and listen very well to your teacher. Now, without further ado, let's begin our discussion. So, Miss Arancilio and Miss Diaz already discussed what is a rubrics and its importance. Now, in this lesson, we will be exploring the 4 types of rubrics. So, rubrics are usually classified according to 2 different aspects of their composition. First, whether the rubric considers each of the criteria one at a time or all the criteria together. And second, whether the rubric is applicable to similar tasks or it can only be used for a particular task. So there are 4 types of rubric. The first one is the general or also known as the generic rubric. As the name itself, it is a type of rubric that contains criteria that are general and can be applied across tasks. Meaning, it is a type of rubric that can be used for several types of assessment tasks. And since it is applicable for different tasks, it is considered as the most convenient types of rubrics for teachers, especially for those teachers who do not have enough time and skills in developing different types of rubrics. And the next type of rubrics is the task-specific rubrics. It is the type of rubrics that is considered as the opposite of the general rubrics because it contains a criteria that are unique for a certain or a specific type of performance task. Meaning, it is the type of rubrics that is used for a certain or a particular task to be assessed, and it is considered as, or it is said that it is the type of rubric which can assess accurately the student's performance or a product. And the third type of rubrics is the holistic rubrics. It is the type of rubrics that allows the teacher to assess the student's performance, activity, or assessment simultaneously based on a single scale, which using a predefined achievement level. And this type of rubrics does not provide a score on each individual criterion. And now we are down with the last type of rubrics, which is the analytic rubrics. It is a kind of rubric from which the student's work or performance are evaluated using each criteria separately. Analytic rubric is also considered as applicable for assessing complex product or performance.
It's activity time!
Now, it is time for your activity. In this activity, you have to list all of the possible advantages and the disadvantages for each types of rubrics. You have to complete the table flash on your screen.
Those are the 4 types of rubrics. And now, let's proceed to the next discussion that will be presented to us by Kent Ian Silverio.
And now I am here to discuss to you the advantages and the disadvantages of the different type of rubrics. We all know that rubrics is very important to define our goals as a teacher and on how we should rate student performances on the different perspective. And also it would benefit them to better understand their expectation and on how should be done the specific performances that has been given by the teacher to them. First, I have here the advantages of the general rubrics. Since this kind of rubrics is the most conventional among all of the rubrics, you can use this kind of rubrics onto some sort of activities, performances, and tasks. And also you can share this kind of rubrics to your student to let them evaluate themselves. Next is the task-specific rubrics. This kind of rubrics is best in instructional and informative assessment. And so you can easily use this kind of rubrics to rate student performances. Next here is the holistic rubrics. In here, you are assessing performances across multiple criteria as a whole. And so you can save time because the decision making is minimized. And also you can apply it consistently by trained raters to make sure the rubrics is reliable. Last but not the least, we have here the advantages for the analytical rubrics. So in using this kind of rubrics, you need to assess student performance on each criterion. So that's why when you are using this, you need to give specific and useful feedback to the student where they need to have improvement and not. And the criterion here is weighted to reflect relative importance of each dimension. It's activity time!
And in this activity, the students should make an essay concerning the types of rubrics. The students should choose among the 4 types of rubrics and discuss its significance in assessing learners' growth and performance.
despite all of the advantages of the different types of rubrics, there is also disadvantages in using them. First, we have the disadvantages of the general rubrics. Since this kind of rubrics can be applied in all tasks and can be reduced, the level of reliability is lower and you need to practice more on using them. Unlike the general rubrics, these task-specific rubrics cannot be shared with the students. And also, you need to write a rubrics for each task you are going to be rate. And that makes it disadvantage in this kind of rubrics. Next, we have here the disadvantages for holistic rubrics. So the rubrics may be difficult to select the best description, especially when students' work is at varying levels. And in here, criterion cannot be weighted. Lastly, we have here the disadvantages for the analytical rubrics. And this rubrics is more consuming in developing it. And the raters may not arrive at the same score if each point of every criterion is not well defined. It's activity time!
At this moment of time, let us have another activity. And in this activity, the students were able to make a role playing. The class will be divided into two groups. Each groups will perform a role playing showing their own concept about the conservation of our Mother Earth. Each group will make a rubric for their own and make sure it will not be the same from the other group. The group 1 will give a ready-made rubric to the group 2 for them to be rated. Same goes with the group 2. The teacher will also be given a rubric to rate the performance for each group.
And those are the advantages and the disadvantages for each type of rubrics. And now let's move into the sample for each type of rubrics.
So these are the following samples for each types of rubrics. First, we have the sample for the general rubrics used for reviewer, critique, performance task, or output. The next one here is the sample of the task-specific rubrics, which is also used for reviewer, critique, performance task, or output. And we can see here that each criterion assess a particular task. Then the third one here is the sample of holistic rubrics used for the oral presentation. We can see here that it uses a single scale. Lastly, we have a sample of analytic rubrics also used for the oral presentation. We can see here that the student's performance is evaluated separately.
It's activity time! With your group in Assessment of Learning 2, make your own rubrics whether it is general, task-specific, holistic, or analytic that best suited on your assigned assessment task. Note, pass your output on the following reporters. The group 1 will be assigned to make a rubric on a poster making. The group 2 will be assigned a rubrics for a declamation. The group 3 for the essay writing. And for the group 4, the role playing. And lastly, the group 5 will be assigned to make a rubrics on video presentation. And that concludes our discussion this morning. Once again, my name is Kenta and Silverio.
And I am Raymond C. Ramoran.
And now, we are signing off. Bye!